Joining us now live on the Clarity Windows and Doors Newsline, JoDee Neal. She is a child abuse expert and survivor, talking about the Clintons appearing for that high-profile deposition in the Epstein investigation and how more and more is being talked about these days as it relates to this sort of behavior, this sort of abuse, the Epstein abuse and whatnot. JoDee, thank you for joining us. From an expert and a survivor standpoint, do you see enough attention going to child sex abuse victims these days versus, back when all this was going on?
No, it was even worse back when this was all happening in real time. But even now, all of our public systems are really under-equipped from an infrastructure standpoint to prosecute these cases and desperately need attention.
The frustrating thing about all this, it's been going on for, it seems like 20 years now. This has been on the forefront, and it just now seems to be picking up any steam.
I would agree with you there. It looks like a pretty serious cover-up.
Why do you think this has been going on? Because we've seen similar types of cover-ups in the past, the Catholic Church, the Boy Scouts. These things happen, and their first instinct, rather than rooting out the problem, seems to be to hide it.
The reason why is really because the influence of perpetrators is far greater than we could have imagined. We know from the Centers for Disease Control, from the most recent data set, which just came out, that for contact sexual violence, there are 45% of women in America have survived it, and 1 in 6 men. We're talking 57,748,000 women.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So are you saying that there's just not enough folks believing victims, or did they just get pushed aside? Why isn't this handled? From your own point of view and your experience.
We have a real cognitive dissonance when it comes to dealing with perpetrators. Look, it's hard. They lie. They're manipulative. It takes courage. It takes resources. It takes wherewithal. And if you consider the number of survivors in this country, there has to be some proportional number of perpetrators. Mm-hmm. They're not getting abused in a vacuum. And we've got to wrap our head around this and start changing our bias that it's systemic.
Do you think that, I go back to the whole Penn State scandal from about 15 years ago, and the story was that people were saying, "Oh, no, you need to stop saying negative things about this particular person." You think there's just you mentioned a bias. Do you think there's just a belief people have, and nobody's this horrible, nobody would do this kind of thing? You have to be making this up.
Absolutely. When I first got assigned to crimes against children, which was actually in Collin County, I cried every night for the first month because I just could not believe the atrocities that were in my files. Biological dads and daughters. Goodness. We've got to accept it.
Oh. Yeah. Well, that is horrifying to hear. JoDee Neal, my heart goes out to you. Having experienced that, but turning that now into expertise and helping others has to be incredibly rewarding.
Thank you. It is. I feel like I'm ready to stand with, Virginia Giuffre, who wrote Nobody's Girl, and Giselle Pellico, whose book just came out. I have produced a tool that is available to the 58 million women and 1 in 6 men in America who need it.
All right. What is that?
My book, Outcry Witness, which is a former prosecutor's guide to healing injustice after sexual violence. It's a step-by-step guide to becoming unfrozen.
All right. This is JoDee Neal on the Clarity Windows and Doors Newsline. Thank you so much for coming on. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you, JoDee.
Thank you. Thank you.